Hey, welcome to the podcast. Before we get into it today, I just want to talk about our sponsors. This is brought to you by Local Menace Apparel. Now, we first came across these guys at Four Chord Music Festival last year, and honestly, they're right up our street, completely involved in the same scene as us. Local Menace is an independent punk and alternative clothing brand, doing things their own way, no corporate nonsense, just quality gear made for people who actually care about our scene. Whether you're heading to a show or you're just repping the culture day to day, they've got you covered. Head over to localmenace.com. That's LOCALMENACE.com. Head to their store and you can use our discount code, which will get you 25% off. The code is WASTETIME. That's WASTETIME. That's localmenace.com. Link will also be in our show notes. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Wasting Time podcast, part of the Never a Phase network. I'm here with my friend Nick, as always. What's going on, Nick?
Not a lot, mate. Not a lot. As you know, just dadding at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
But I have been enjoying our Records Remembered segment that's just released last week.
Yes.
I just saw their State Champs videos done 135,000 views.
That's fantastic. Big shout out to State Champs for collaborating with us on that. I assume most people who are listening to this probably are connected with us on social media. But in case you're not, please give us a follow on Instagram at the Wasting Time podcast. When we were at Four Chord last year, we recorded a segment, and I got to give you props for this, Nick, because it was your idea. Me and Greg were saying this amongst ourselves the other day, like, it's a good idea of Nick's, this, and I'm glad that we're doing it.
Appreciate it.
Basically, we, in collaboration with our friends at Smart Punk, who are a sponsor of Four Chord, we would get some vinyl and then get our interviewees to talk about a particular record and what it means to them.
Yeah, so we've had Evan from State Champs go live last week with Blink self-titled.
Yes.
All-time favourite record remembered. Joey from Koyo. It's one of the Taking Back Sunday records.
Yeah, New Again, which was not one of their more popular ones, I guess. And like, it's been interesting reading the comments. Lots of people who are just like, yes, it's great to see some love for that album.
Yeah, and then we've got loads of Boss Leave that are going to be released over the coming weeks. And props to Greg, our guy, who puts all the stuff together, because it's a thing of beauty.
And also, if you're interested in Greg's work, check out Real Dose Studio on Instagram. If you go to our bio on Instagram, you'll find the link to his stuff there. So definitely give that some attention. Also, on the subject of Four Chord, I want to shout out our new sponsors. We've obviously already mentioned them at the top of this, but yeah, it's great to be working with Local Menace. They reached out to us when we were at Four Chord, and obviously they're very much part of the same scene as us, so it's great to be working with them. Yeah,
great merchandise clothing company, so go check out their stuff. Right, cool. Anything else been going on? New music? You've always got your finger on the pulse.
Yeah, a few things I've been into. I mean, it'd be remiss for me to not shout out WALWIN, who I've been working with, managing recently. He had a single called Make Stacey Great Again, came out at the beginning of April. Adobe did a premiere of it, which was awesome, nice. And it's doing really well, and he's got lots of stuff to come.
I think it's great. So well done.
Outside of that, the Social Distortion at the time of recording dropped a new song, Partners in Crime, today.
All right, okay.
It needs a couple of listens to me. It's one of their more kind of rock and roll ones that is not my favourite style of theirs.
Right, okay.
Obviously, album's coming out next month. Sleeping with Sirens got comparatively new song, and Ending in Itself. I thought that was pretty cool. It's been a while since they've put something out, so it's good to have them back. And I think we've both been enjoying the Super Sometimes stuff.
Yeah.
We talked about them in the last episode, I know.
Yeah, second single from the upcoming album has been released now.
Yep.
I don't know if they're releasing any more in advance of the album. Maybe one more, given it's
potentially
mid-May. That probably suggests that there might be one more single in between the full release. But yeah,
for sure.
They're both really fun. I prefer the first one. I think Afterthought it's called.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, Afterthought was the stronger of the two, I think.
But yeah, definitely looking to Looking forward to hearing that full length. And I guess the other full length that has kind of got done the singles and is now out in full is the new Grade 2 record.
Yes.
Talk about it.
Talk about it.
Yeah, that came out on Friday last week. So it needs more of a listen, but I was really enjoying the singles that they had already released. I think there was 3 that they'd already put out. But on first listen, it sounds solid, quintessential Grade 2. And
Yeah, it's pretty like bog standard Grade 2, which I don't mean as a negative.
yeah, it's solid, and obviously they're working with Tim Armstrong and the Hellcat team as well. So it's very well produced and put together. And they're a very hard-working band, aren't they? So no doubt they will be touring the shit out of that record.
Yeah. I unfortunately just missed them in London the other day. I haven't seen them for a few years, so it would have been good to see them.
Yeah, they definitely work hard. I guess not necessarily new music, but what's been popping off on YouTube at the moment is the Militarie Gun Tiny Desk, NPR Tiny Desk.
Yeah, Militarie Gun, that does not surprise me that they're now doing a Tiny Desk. They're definitely that kind of trendy sort of band now at this point, aren't they?
Yeah, I think it's done really well in terms of new followers as well. I think it's really landed well. And I think, I don't know how much of the Tiny Desk stuff you watch, but like those stripped back performances of like punk bands and hardcore bands it can go one or two ways, can't it? But I think it really works for them, and I've watched it a few times now. Really,
a few times. Oh, yeah, you do love them, don't you? What was what Third Eye Blind song did they do?
It was the Throw Me Away. I think it's called Throw Me Away, one of their songs, but they like integrated "Can I Graduate?"
Really? Okay.
Into that song basically.
That's cool.
So they kind of closed out that song with that with that Third Eye Blind lyric line interweaved, which was quite cool. But yeah, I mean, Militarie Gun have always talked about, and what's his name, Ian Shelton has always talked about his songwriting and being connected with his struggles growing up around addiction and all that kind of stuff. And I just feel like that performance really works for them, because it's it is stripped back, but it's actually you hear more of that and his songwriting and what it means. And have you watched much of like Tiny Desk stuff in general? I enjoy a lot.
Not enough, to be honest. I've definitely watched Bleachers do it.
Did you not watch the Turnstile one like a few weeks ago?
No. How was that?
That was wild.
Was it?
Yeah, it was like it was full on. They kind of treated it like a show, really. It was pretty wild. But I tell you what got me on to. Have you ever seen the Tiger's Jaw one?
No.
The Tiger's Jaw, I could always take or leave Tiger's Jaw. I wasn't that bothered, but it was the Tiny Desk thing that kind of made me give them a bit more time, I think, really. That's really good set that they do on that Tiny Desk.
Okay.
So go check that one out. Jimmy Eat World have done one, which is cool. Pine Grove do one, which is cool. So yeah, they're worth having a troll through.
Yeah, some decent names in there.
Post Malone, you love Post Malone. There's a few country artists that you might be interested in there.
Yeah,
so
yeah, of course.
I would, definitely go back and have a listen to a few of them. But it got me thinking about just kind of stripped back performances as well. Like I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, really, of kind of YouTube kind of acoustic stripped back performances from kind of punk rock, pop punk bands from over the years.
Yeah.
Because we've all done that over the years, spent hours on YouTube watching shit from bands we like.
On that, let me ask you a question. So I want 2 answers. One, like was always your go-to, I guess, like watching it on YouTube or whatever, one that was kind of released or whatever. And secondly, what is like an acoustic performance that you were at by, like a rock or a punk band or whatever that sticks in the memory? Because I've got 2 in my head, and I'm interested to know if they're even the same, potentially the same 2 as you. But you go first.
Thinking about kind of stuff to watch online and something, well, not even online, something that takes me back to like your bedroom, fucking like, how many years ago? 20, 20 odd years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
Was
more.
kind of. Do you remember that Thrice performance? Like it's a Warp Tour live. They do All That's Left, like acoustically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'd forgotten about that until you've just reminded me.
It
Yeah, I
was it
do.
was it a
Yeah.
drive-through DVD or was it like just a Warp Tour like thing?
I feel it was on the Warped Tour 2003 DVD. I'd have to look it up. I don't see why that would have been on Drive Thru because obviously we would have watched the
Yeah.
Drive Thru DVD a lot in those days as well. But Thrice had nothing to do with Drive Thru. It must have been on the Warped Tour one.
I just remember that like song like being played that way. It was just like was what got me into Thrice and like
Yeah, yeah,
arguably Thrice are probably a bit too heavy for my liking in
yeah,
general. But that performance was like made me take notice at the time years and years ago. So
yeah.
that's one that stands out from years ago. But more kind of recently, I don't know if you've heard of the Cardinal Sessions. It's a bit like a bit of a series, bit like Tiny Desk kind of vibe,
Okay.
but they have loads of artists come through. Um, Chuck Reagan does the boat on there, which is really, really cool.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Always love listening to that live version, like stripped back version. Mike Herrera does a like an out. He's got his acoustic guitar outside of like a music venue, and he's doing For Always on a Cardinal session,
Oh,
which is
cool.
really, really
Very
cool. I
cool.
don't know if you've seen
Yeah,
that one. And I guess on the Mike Herrera theme, obviously he's done loads of fucking acoustic stuff over the years, especially
yeah,
with his
yeah,
tumble down stuff. But he's got some videos online it's at the Guitar Center, you know, the big American
yeah,
US
yeah,
guitar store, Guitar Center. And he
yeah,
does like a performance of Doing Time and Secret Weapon, but it's kind of hosted by Guitar Center.
yeah.
That they're really cool. So check them out if you haven't. And then live, I think it has to be that fucking that Unwritten Law.
It has to be. I mean, that's obviously what I was going to
It was
pick.
like a pinch me night, that really, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
like what is going on? Like
Well, I was
yeah.
just, it's funny because I had Kaylin, that obviously the Unwritten Law song on the playlist recently, and like when it's on, my wife's been like, "Oh, what's this song? I love this song," and like she, it's been asking for it a lot, and then just asking lots of questions about Unwritten Law on that, telling her about Scott Russo, and then I was telling her about that night and showing her clips of it, and I was just saying how funny it was because obviously we went to this acoustic show, which was Scott and Chris from Unwritten Law, at a place in Tufnell Park in London. But before the show, Punktastic were filming a thing when like those 360 cameras were all the rage. So they set one of those up and we all stood in a circle around Scott and Chris. And I just remember Scott, every time he talked, he grabbed our friend Dan's beer and just would have a sip of it while he was talking.
Yeah.
It was so surreal, man.
It was a
What a
very,
night.
very intimate night. Even when we weren't filming that little segment,
Yeah,
that song, I think the whole night was a very intimate show, wasn't it? And
it was.
um, yeah, it was very, very cool. Very
And it was
small
cool
basement.
because, we were always into Unwritten Law. And, I guess from the time we were into them, because I guess we got into them in the early 2000s, they never came over to the UK. So to then have that first experience with them being that was fantastic.
Yeah, cool. Is there anything else that sticks out for you? Just, I guess, live
Well,
or like to
I,
watch?
yeah, I suppose I didn't really say any to watch. I mean, the classic, and I thought you were going to say this initially, was like all those times we spent watching the Dashboard Confessional MTV Unplugged. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's
It
got to
was,
be up there, I
it was
suppose.
our like go to whenever we got in like drunk and tired and ready to go to bed.
It
Like when we just
was, yeah,
couldn't be asked to watch anything like that was
yeah,
like heavy.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
put Dashboard Unplugged on.
yeah.
Um,
I remember Rob, as in Rob of Elvana fame, being like absolutely blown away with the drummer Dashboard had at the time.
that's fair. Well, we'll get to see them soon at Slam Dunk in a couple of
Yeah,
months, won't
man.
we?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We'll be able to
Can't
have
wait
that
for that.
moment once again.
Yeah, for
What's Rob
sure.
doing that weekend? We should get him along.
We'll check it in with
Check
him
his
after this.
availability.
Let's
Yeah.
do that. Okay, I think that's maybe a good point to lead into today's chat with Kenny Vasoli of the Starting Line, which is, obviously he's been a big name in our scene for as long as we can remember, really. This one was fun, right?
Yeah, big band for me over the years. That
Yeah.
say it like you mean it album.
Oh yeah, and
Was
also, yeah. So we teased this in our last intro. We talked about your your tattoo, which completely forgot to mention when we were talking to Kenny, but
Yeah, well, I didn't forget. I
yeah,
just bottled mention it really. Let's be
fair
honest.
enough. Yeah,
But yeah, I have. We got older, but we're still young. Tattooed on me somewhere, which is obviously a lyric from that record. So, um, yeah, Kenny, if you're listening, I have a tattoo that is starting on your wrist. I hope you appreciate it. Um, it's not. I've had a lot of tattoos covered up over the years, and it's still there. So it's made the cut.
there we go.
So there you go. Right, let's hear from Kenny.
Yeah, I may have declined the interview otherwise, and then I sampled an episode, and I'm like, oh, UK gentlemen, no, that sounds delightful.
Fantastic. Appreciate that. And speaking of Nick mentioning Pittsburgh there, I guess that's not a million miles from you still Philly based these days?
Yeah, we're Philly based, so it's like 5-6 hours from here.
Yeah, I suppose in terms of like American geography, it's quite near, but to us, like 5-6 hours, that's obviously like the length of our country, pretty much.
For sure. I feel like yeah, I feel like as Philadelphians we don't claim Pittsburgh too much as our neighbors. We sort of just relegate them to like Ohio territory. I think that's mainly because of sports stuff though.
Oh yeah, fair. What's home life like at the minute? Because you became a father like comparatively recently, right? I heard you talking about this on the Joel Madden podcast a couple of months back.
I did, yeah. Our daughter is 4 months now, and it's really wonderful. Loving dad life. She's making it really easy on me. She's a very easy, wonderful, happy baby, and it's beautiful every day. Really loving every second.
Nice. Well, just before you came on, we were talking because Nick's become a father for the second time very recently, and Nick's telling me about that experience.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
Congratulations. When was your
thank you.
how when was your child born?
He's 9 weeks, so kind of mid January. So we're in the trenches a little bit at the moment. We haven't got a routine, and we've got a 3-year-old as well, who's yeah, just adds another an element to the whole equation. But
Oh
it's
my
good. It's
goodness.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, does it get easier for you the third
Uh,
time around
second, but
or second?
yeah. Yeah, well, you kind of forget a lot. I think you forget what those early kind of years are. It's just such a short drop in time. Those kind of newborn moments. So yeah, it
Yeah,
does feel like we're starting again a little bit, but it comes with like I don't know what you guys have been like, but like without the anxiety the second time around of just having this child that you're bringing into the world and are responsible for, and are they kind of questioning everything they do, and is it the right thing? Kind of like yeah, that's
definitely.
definitely a bit easy.
I feel yeah. I feel like we're just sort of swimming past those first time parent breakers of like the jitters of, am I doing this right? Or just
Yeah.
the fear of any little thing that goes wrong. It's starting to get a lot more relaxed with our routine for sure.
Nice. And like, so how is life at the minute outside the starting line, like at home in Philly? What's that look like for you these days?
Yeah, it's pretty wonderful. This time of year is typically pretty slow for us as far as gigs go. So it
Yeah.
worked out in that sense that, our daughter was born in November, and there's really only been, I think, 3 or so gigs since then. So it's
Okay.
been allowing me a lot of time at home, allowing us to see a lot of the mile markers with the baby, and has allowed a lot of bonding time, which I'm really grateful for.
Yeah.
And what about the kind of the rest of the guys in terms of like careers? What are those? I mean, I guess during kind of those years off, what are they all still in music, kind of career wise, or are they all kind of
For
doing different bits and bobs?
Yeah, now three of us are just putting all the eggs into the music basket. For a while, I was the only outlier that didn't have a day job, and I was just trying to have side hustles with DJing and, little things, little side quest things of that nature. And now Tom and Schmutz have both quit their jobs last year, so now
Okay.
they're, yeah, in part of the camp of trying to get the regularity of us playing together to be a little bit more frequent. And Mike lives down in North Carolina, and he's held down the same position, or at least at the same company for a long time. I think that's what brought him down to North Carolina. And I believe, and I should really ask him for clarification, but I think he does something in terms of like computer aided design. I think that's what CAD stands for. But he does something of that nature. And then Matt Watts lives out in California, and he is he holds in some sort of like artist like representative position at Vans, the shoe company.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. And I guess at this point, your most recent record came out, what was it, late September? So pretty much half a year into that cycle. How's the reaction been so far? And I guess, it's particularly interesting to you, given it was so long since your last full length.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it. I mean, we took a leap of faith releasing it ourselves, and also it being the first release in 18 years is, there can be a little bit of anxiety build up for how it's going to be received, all things considered. But I think that, I read all the comments. Like that's one thing. I'm not cool enough to like ignore it and just put blinders on and just like make my art and just, not care about it. As much as I want to front, like I don't care what anybody thinks. I read every single comment.
So what, like you're in the subreddits and all of that? Oh,
huge.
Really?
Huge. Well, my wife, like when she first moved in, I was like, oh yeah, we should see what they say on Reddit about that. She's like, what's Reddit? And I was like, oh my God, like Reddit is one of the purest parts of the internet that's like remained untouched and like ad free. Yeah. I think that, like people can say what they want about Reddit, but I don't think that Reddit is discussed enough. I feel like it's an underrated corner of the internet because it's essentially just a huge chat thread. And I just love the simplicity of it, and that it's just a subject and replies and just upvoting. And I love that it's never changed since then. So it's just a very simple algorithm that if you want an answer, it's not always going to be the truth, but it'll at least be the consensus of what the community thinks is the truth.
Sure.
So I like that. I feel like it's a good equalizer for people's opinion. And if we're going, off the Reddit barometer of how this record is doing, I'd say that it's performing quite well because it's a real hit on the Reddit threads. As I've said, quite vocally on stage a lot. I always give flowers to Reddit for how much they've been championing our band.
Historically, would you be like this? So back in the day, I guess it would be like going on absolutepunk.net and reading through the comments and stuff. Do you do that back in the day with the old releases as well?
Definitely, chronically, for sure. Yeah.
I guess let's talk a little bit about the conception of kind of Eternal Youth, and I guess you guys kind of starting to come back together again. Kind of how did that conversation start? Well, what was the turning point, and were you spurred on by the resurgence that has kind of been going on over the last few years in the scene? How did that all kind of come back together?
Well, I think that there being such a resurgence in the type of music that we make definitely set the table for us to be able to make a record like this. It certainly, I feel like, made it a more comfortable decision for us to come together, and it did see like the demand for new music from us was at a point where it felt appropriate to take the leap into attempting some. And we weren't hasty about recording and releasing it. Like, it really was an accumulation of songs over quite a few years. I think we started writing the first song in 2020, and they've just gradually accumulated throughout the last 5 years of making that record. And we've had the first initial idea to just record a 7-inch with just 4 songs, just 2 songs per side. And I thought that would just be kind of the business model from that point on, especially with people living in different places, and at that point everyone holding down day jobs. I thought that was the most attainable course of action for our band. And it's still a way to keep us creative. And this 7-inch thing felt kind of punk, and I'm trying to move into a more punk ethos as we continue the band into the future. Like, I'm not really trying to play a top 40 game or like compete with that, or like I don't really, the things like
Yeah.
Grammy nominations aren't really in my like aren't in my purview. It's just
Yeah.
about like how long can we be a band and sustain this thing and like still like retain our fan base. And I think that, we just had a gut check of where we're at now creatively and what we would like to accomplish artistically. And it was a long time of like reflection and passing each other tracks back and forth, and like had a collaborative playlist going that we could all add songs into and then all listen to from our separate corners and kind of have a check with where we're all at creatively. And that really helped to like, frame everything, and was a good jumping off point to write some songs. And yeah, just like the previous records, it felt like it was a little slow going and rusty at first. And then the more that we got into the groove of writing together again, it just felt, dare I say, like even more exciting and stimulating than it had in the past on some of our other record processes. So
Yeah.
yeah, this one, it just came together really naturally. And then by the time that we were done with everything, it just felt so complete and just a real intentional idea and movement from us. So yeah, I think it was it just felt like a natural point in time to be doing this.
And was it good working with Will Yip again? I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, he's got some amazing records in his discography.
for sure. We had always dabbled with some projects with him in the past. We'd done a live record with him. We had done a live session in his studio, and then we
Yeah.
had done a 7-inch, I think, back in 2016 with him. And every time really loved working with him. Some of the other guys were a little bit hesitant in the beginning when we were like first deciding on who to go with, because everything had been kind of so quickly done with him in the past that we didn't really have a chance to do a pre-production sort of process. And this time we really got to see what he was made of as far as like looking under the hood structurally at all the songs. And
Okay.
I think that he struck a perfect balance of letting us retain the spirit of what we wanted these songs to be, and also adding his insight with what could make them just the most effective versions of the songs that they could be. Because my thing is, I don't want producers to overstep, which some have in the past, and I
Okay.
also don't want it to just be like, I just want it my ideas and I don't want any other ideas to intrude on that. Like I have
Yeah.
to like put my pride aside and like not be so precious about the arrangements that I write once it gets to that point.
Sure.
And that's a good like aspect of maturity over the years, is like letting go of that kind of thing and trusting people. And it's easier to trust a guy like Will because we're friends, and also he's made so many records that I'm an immense fan of. So I knew that his taste was equivalent to mine in terms of what we're trying to accomplish.
Got it.
Nice. And then I guess kind of from a live show perspective, you've had a busy kind of summer last year. You talked about a bit of downtime at the moment, obviously with your little one. But you've got quite a busy summer ahead, right? And I saw Warped was announced as well, not long ago. Kind of how do you manage that as a band now? Is there any limitations in terms of kind of what you do and you don't do, or do you have kind of do you just see what kind of lands in your lap and have that discussion as a group?
Yeah, for sure. It has not been too difficult as of yet. I mean, like I said, there's only been a handful of gigs since baby was born. And moving forward into the rest of the year, it's sort of like ramping up, which is nice. I mean, there's just sort of scattered stuff until the fall. And so that'll be a good way to just like get my feet wet with gigging again and not have to miss my family so terribly. And I'm making sure to at least like be home for the birthday and things of that nature, and just try to be around for as much as I can. But this is the line of work that I'm in, so my wife is very understanding of that and knows
Yeah.
that we need to bring in diaper money somehow, and it's the it's the best job I could ask for. So I'm glad that I have a lot of support at home to do what I need to do.
I was going to say you were in the UK last year at Slam Dunk as well. I know me and Chris both saw you there. It was good to see you on this side of the water.
Oh yeah, it was real a real thrill to come back. We had been wanting to do it for a long time, and it was hard to get everybody, you know, in a place where they could make it out. And so I'm glad that
Yeah.
last May we were able to go. I think I flew out like the day after my birthday too, so it was a nice way to celebrate.
Earlier today, I was just going back and listening to some of your older stuff, and like I hadn't listened to the With Hopes of Starting Over EP in a long time. I remember like getting that EP. I think it was Christmas 2001, and I was listening to your cover of Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now. But I threw it in our story, and then Nick from Over It, which is a bit of a throwback, was started messaging me, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, I remember playing with these guys when they were Sunday Drive," and so he asked to say what's up, by the way. But
Oh, that's so great. Yeah, I listened to your Peter interview.
oh, did you?
That,
Oh,
yeah,
thank
that
you.
was because we played a lot with Over It back in the day. I was actually just listening to them on the dog walk the other day too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, a lot of like VFW shows with those guys.
Yeah.
I remember we were recording down in Virginia once, and like we only listened to like River City High and Over It on the way down because we were like trying
Yeah.
to get all pumped on like the Virginia sound.
Yeah.
But Over It was a brilliant band. I feel like they're in line for like a comeback. I don't know if he's like flirting with that. I don't know if I forget if you touched on that, but I feel like it's their time.
Peter's
Yeah.
keen, I know that much. Peter's
Yeah.
definitely keen.
It could tip that way. Now's the time. The stock is high on fast pop punk.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if Rufio's not going to do it, Over It's gotta, they gotta get that Rufio money,
Exactly. Exactly, man.
I guess maybe let's stay on the kind of nostalgia kind of theme then in terms of the starting line. I think it'd be great to talk about those kind of early years and just kind of how it all blew up for you guys quite quickly, right? With Hopes of Starting Over, the Sunday Drive thing, Drive Thru coming along. Kind of how did that come about? How did the Drive Thru kind of relationship start back in the day?
Well, we were always big fans of the drive-through scene as soon as we became aware of it. I think the first time I saw the drive-through logo, I saw Phoenix TX when they were still called River Phoenix open for Blink. I think with Assorted Jelly Beans, I think we're on the show too.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah.
And yeah, like I bought like a River Phoenix shirt and I bought that full length that they had and I was super into it. And then I think quickly it spread to the rest of the guys. They were super into it too. And then obviously we became aware of Newfound Glory and Midtown and all those bands. And it just seemed like a good home for the type of music that we were trying to make. So we had set our sights on that label very early on, and Matt Watts had the brilliant strategy of getting to know these two guys, Charlie Adams and his partner Dustin, who had, I think, interned and possibly, held down positions at Drive Thru at one point in time. And then they broke off and still had a great relationship with Richard and Stephanie. But they had started their own label called We the People Records.
Right.
And they had like basically put out a lot of like compilations for like the like LA Huntington Beach scene. Bands like Suburban Legends. And I know they were super tight with the RX Bandits guys and still are. And they had a few other bands, like they had this band Astoria that Parker from Say Anything played in, and also from Jameson Parker. So there was this like, kind of community of friends that were all like helping each other make music and put out music. And through the internet, Matt Watts had befriended Charlie Adams and they wanted to fly us out and just sort of get to know us. I can't remember if we played for them. I have a feeling it was just sort of a hang visit, but we went out there and met with Charlie and Dustin, and then they introduced us to Richard and Stephanie at the Glass House for a Jimmy Eat World show. And so that was really cool. It was also first time going to the Glass House, first time seeing Jimmy Eat World, first time being in California. That's what the song Left Coast Envy is about that trip.
Right.
So
Right.
we were, yeah, like big dreamers when it came to being on that label. And I know that there was a lot of bands that were gunning for the position of being on that roster, and it felt, yeah, like pretty surreal when they did eventually offer us a deal. And yeah, I remember I was like still in high school. I was in my junior year and I was coming home from track practice and like was still like in my like sweaty clothes, and my mom handed me the phone. It was Matt Watts, and he said, "Yeah, like Drive Thru wants to sign us."
Amazing.
Yeah, but then he was like, "But you need to be able to tour, so you need to like not go to high school anymore somehow."
Okay.
And so then I had to like break that to my parents, which they were, happy that there was an opportunity, but not thrilled about the school thing.
Yeah.
And then I went to my guidance counselor and was like, "Can I get homeschooled? How can I do this?" And my guidance counselor brilliantly came up with a strategy to have me go to night classes at community college and get enough credits to be able to graduate by summertime of that year.
Okay.
And it was a surprisingly really easy process. Like just signed up for, I think, like four or five classes maybe at community college, which I just took at night and a little bit during the summer, and just
Fast tracked it.
got the heck out of there. Yeah, didn't even like go to graduation or anything like that. I just like, I think my parents picked up my diploma when I was on tour.
But that's cool, man. Like, what a dream that must have been, because obviously you were kind of like that almost next generation of drive through bands. Because like I remember being into drive through, so it was sort of like it was Alistair, Midtown, what else was like Mother Mania, all that stuff. And then it was like the following year, like I remember seeing like you and Finch on the sample, and it was like these are the new bands that they've signed. So I guess it would have been similar for you, as you say, into drive through, but then you were kind of like coming up on that next stream of bands, which yeah, must have been insane, particularly at that age, man.
It was great. Yeah. Like our first tour ever was with RX Bandits, and they were very warm and welcoming to us, even though like we had a lot of differences sonically, and
Right.
I
Yeah.
was pretty like enamored with them musically. I thought that they were just such a brilliant live band, and even though I'm sure like we were not knocking their socks off with our sound at the time, like they were just like so sweet and so brotherly to us, and just so encouraging, and just always offering advice, and letting me ride in the van with them and showing me cool new music that I'd never heard before. And yeah, also with the Finch guys, those were our sort of, yeah, like you said, like our class. They came into
Sure.
Drive Thru
Yeah.
right around the time that we did, and they were basically the same age, and hilarious guys, just very fun guys to be around. They used to spend a lot of nights at my parents' house, and my mom would make them breakfast and stuff like that. So we have a real nice brotherhood with those bands for sure.
Nice. And then, so jumping forward a little bit, obviously the EP comes out, and then in between, if I remember this correctly, in between the EP and then your first full length, you did that first UK tour when you came over with Finch supporting Newfound Glory.
Yeah.
Yeah, just what do you remember of that time? What was that? What was that experience like?
It was crazy. It was all pinch me stuff. I mean, we were
Yeah.
obviously huge fans of Newfound, and for them to take us under their wing and bring us out on so many tours, especially overseas, was so huge for us. I remember having a blast, being able to drink legally was,
Yeah.
or I don't even know if I was even of UK
Oh, you
legal
might have been
drinking
17
age.
still, maybe. Yeah.
But no one was really, it doesn't seem, I don't know how it is now, but no one was checking IDs
No, yeah.
at the, as long as you looked in the ballpark, as
Yeah.
we say, it was pretty much good to go. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I just remember just having a real blast. I mean, it's hard to have a bad time with Newfound Glory, especially in that era. They were just always very easygoing and just like very humorous all the time. Like very lighthearted. And same with Finch. I remember that was when I started smoking weed every day. Just because like the Finch guys were just like heavy into it, and I was just like, okay, like I liked it, but there was never like a routine of doing it every day until that tour.
I should imagine Ian from Newfound Glory would have been into it in those days as well.
He was for sure, but we were sharing the bus with Finch. So
Oh, I
like
see.
it
Okay.
was mainly
Yeah.
like I think like half of the Finch guys were sort of like habitual weed smokers, and they
Okay.
got me on board.
I mean, I guess I just wanted to touch on Say It Like You Mean It. Obviously, that it's safe to say that that album, kind of that record, blew up pretty good for you guys, and it was real short turnaround between your EP and that record, and you worked with Trombino on that as well, didn't you? As well,
We did.
like, did you have that together, or were you on the just getting that out? I mean, what was that? What was that period like in terms of putting that together and it going out into the world and it just blowing up, I guess?
Yeah, it was great because we sort of had our pick of the litter of the songs that we wanted to record for that, and then also had, the opportunity to write some like a new wave of songs for that record. So we had recorded a full length in Jersey probably around the year 2000 or so, intended for We the People before we got signed to Drive Thru. And that has also seen the light of day in something called like the early years or something of that nature. So that record, it has like a few of the songs that you can find on Say It Like You Mean It. Like it has Almost There Going Nowhere, and it has Leaving, and a few others, I believe, that found its way onto Say It Like You Mean It re-recorded. And so we had that, and also a few of those made it onto the With Hopes of Starting Over EP. So we got to really kind of take stock of which ones we wanted to bring on there. We were also going to record Greg's Last Day for Say It Like You Mean It, and Tremino heard it and was like, he's like, just leave it off. And we're like, okay, the guy's not feeling that one. It's fine. And so I remember us like definitely having a period of writing some new material where Up and Go came along, Given the Chance had come along, Hello Houston. Like in that period of time, we were writing a lot, I guess, in the key of B, trying to, just honor our influences of that time, which was a lot of, I'm sure, just like Blink 182 and New Found Glory and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, like came in with a new fresh set of songs to show to Trombino, and then he got to do his thing with the pre-production. And yeah, I think Given the Chance was even written in pre-production because we were just like, yeah, we need something with a little bit like more of like a like jumpier energy or something of that nature.
What's your favorite song on that record when you listen back to it with
Say It Like You Mean
2026
It.
years?
Yeah, I'm trying to think which one it might be Left Coast Envy. Um, I basically base that off of like what is the most fun to play live.
Okay, yeah.
And that one's up there. Like there's not a whole lot going on with like the arrangements in a lot of those songs. I'll say like even Best of Me, like even though I've played it a trillion times, like has like some interesting stuff that like I can't just really like throw it on autopilot completely.
Yeah.
It's not like a totally mindless song as far as like at least my bass playing and vocal is concerned. So at least that one is like stimulating to play and also gets a reaction. So I don't mind playing that one as much as some people might think. But Left Coast Envy is nice, and also it's nice to have a like picture postcard of that point in time to remind myself of that trip. Like I'm glad I did things along those lines where I took moments that were special to me and cemented them in a song and so vividly.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of regrets from those years, or kind of anything you would have done differently now looking back, later in life?
Not from Say It Like You Mean It. I mean, like, I feel like Say It Like You Mean It was an absolutely thrilling experience to be able to make that record because it was the first record that we made that I think sounds by definition like professional. A
Yeah.
lot of our earlier stuff. I mean, I give a ton of credit to Chris from Portrait Studios because I think he was like elevating our sound leaps and bounds beyond what we were capable of, and definitely like was a necessary like instrument and like conduit of growth for our band. And was also like the, you know, facilitator to get our feet wet in the studio and like know how to like actually record in a studio. And
Yeah.
it gave us like preparation to work with Trombino. And Trombino, I feel like, was just the perfect guy to do that record for us because he was not like anybody that knows Mark knows that he's not like an overbearing character. Like he's a very much like a low key, like softly spoken guy and a very like chill persona.
Yeah.
And also like a very good poker face. Like it's really like kind of hard to, you know, he's hard to read unless he's telling you exactly what he thinks. Like I remember
So you don't
doing,
necessarily know when you're impressing him then?
No, never. I still don't know. I still don't know if I ever impressed him. But you know, I'd like to think there was something about us that he you know that he liked. But he was just such like I mean, we all looked up to him so much because I mean, clarity was our bread and butter, and then that was like the summit of like record production at that point. Like I don't think that any of us had really heard anything more impressive than that.
Yeah.
And so and then, you know, hearing What It Is to Burn too, we were just like, oh my God, like we would love to work with this guy. We almost thought it was like out of our reach. And then he came to a drive-through centric show at the Glass House, and he was kind of hanging with Finch, and it was R2K Randy backstage that was Yeah, he was talking to Trombino, and like, you know, R2K is the opposite of Trombino. He'll just like say like anything, he'll just blurt out like anything that's on his mind. And he was just like, so Mark, you gonna do Starting Line's record or what? Just like real loud and just brash. Yeah. And then I just remember like, I think Trombino was just like having some water or something. He was just like, yeah, okay.
Really? Just like that?
Yeah, just like that. He was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. That's all it took. And then we started working with him, lo and behold. And yeah, I remember once I was doing vocals with Trombino, and I did a take, and I thought it was pretty good. I'd been getting this take for a while now, and I was just like, okay, like I think that was the one. And there was just a long pause, a very long, pregnant pause, like over the talk back. And I was just like waiting for him to say something. And he just comes over and he goes, I am sorry. I just was thinking about the burrito I'm going to have for lunch. And that's just like the kind of guy he is. You know, he's like very funny, but just like bone dry.
Yeah.
And yeah. And like we were geeking out over the you know, the decorated career that he had in producing. But then after we recorded with him, I became absolutely obsessed with his band Drive Like Jehu. Like at the time, I think I was too young to really wrap my head around that band. Like it was like a little bit too advanced for me when I was making that record. And then as we were making Direction in 2007, I was like a full-blown Drive Like Jehu freak. And I think you can actually hear it more in the Direction music, that I was taking a lot of cues from Jehu and their contemporaries and that sort of like angular post-punk and like holler singing, screaming kind of thing. And to this day, I think that is like one of the most like brilliantly made like masterpiece records of all time. And just like I'm always gushing to Mark anytime he'll hear me about that record.
You said to Nick before that, so not necessarily any regrets or anything during the Say It Like You Mean It era, but does that imply there were some regrets, and that kind of when you're doing Based on a True Story and Direction in those years?
Yeah, I think that there's probably things I would have like gone about differently if I could go back in time on those two records. But also, I think that's the nature of making records, is that like the beauty of it is you just have to leave it be at some point, you know? And I think that the problems that occurred with Based on a True Story is that, you know, as beautiful and brilliant and talented of a producer as Tim O'Hare was, I don't know if he was exactly the right fit for us and our sound and what we were trying to achieve at that time. And like, he was also having a baby at that point. Like his girlfriend was pregnant, and I could tell he was just like, not unfocused, but like definitely had like a split attention because that was going on in his life. Like he very much like had to like rush out of sessions, a lot of times, and at the end of it, like he was going on vacation with his girlfriend, and I kind of had to just like bring home like vocal sessions and finish, the backups and finish
Okay.
percussion and stuff like that, which like I knew how to use Pro Tools, but I was not like in any way like a producer and an engineer, so I was just doing my best with it, and I think I did well with it, but it was also like a way more stressful experience, feeling like I had to sort of tidy up the end of the record like I really wanted it to. It just felt like we kind of left off with him at an unfinished place to no one's real fault. Like it just
Right.
was a scheduling thing, if anything.
Sure.
So that left us in a place where we were trying to finish it, and then there was like a bit of a debate with mixing. He wanted to mix it, and then Chris Lord-Alge ended up mixing it, and Tim was not happy with that decision.
Right.
And then we also like we're not really crazy with the takes that we had of like making love to the camera and like the single choices. So we went with Howard Benson, who had just recently done the My Chem record and a few other records that we were into, and he had showed expressed interest in working with us, so we took that chance, and I'm sure that also didn't make Tim happy, and we thought we were doing the right thing by trying to like alleviate the issues that we had with it, but at the end of the day, it might have made more sense to just like have a little bit more thoughtfulness about the end result that we wanted out of this thing. It's just like a bit of a potpourri of what we were trying to accomplish. But I mean, people seem to really still connect with that record, and no one seems to like identify the issues in my like any
Yeah.
sort of like piecemeal kind of like perception that I have of the record. No one seems to have that from the outsiders. It seems to be like a well-received, cohesive record for a lot of the fan base. So I'm happy to hear that. Like no, people don't seem to share whatever like
Yeah.
minuscule hangups I have about that record. But I think it's more just like the aggravation of the process of trying to get that one finished. It just like sticks in my head as like a messier, overall experience than that, especially compared to Say It Like You Mean It, where it was like, yeah, we were in the studio for 5 weeks, and then we went off to the UK and we were getting mixes back. Yeah, as I was
Right.
smoking weed
Right.
on the daily with Finch, like getting, like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mixes, and I was just like, oh, this sounds banging. Like there was no like, there was no real like tinkering that had to be done from our end. It was just kind of a slam dunk as far as we were concerned. But that said, like I am still very happy with Based on a True Story. But at the same time, we do play less from that record than any other record that we've ever made. So I think that maybe
Right.
is indicative of like how it sits with us in the
Yeah.
catalog. But it also is our most experimental, I think, which is an important step to get us where we are. Like I'm glad that we were not just trying to remake Say It Like You Mean It in a paint by numbers sort of
Yeah.
process. Like we were
Yeah.
we were stepping out of our comfort zone, which I think benefited us in the long run. And then yeah, direction was also like I'd say closer to like a Say It Like You Mean It type of experience where we were in the studio and everything was just firing on all cylinders. It was clicking, everything was moving at a great pace, and everything was feeling really good as we were making it, and all the roughs were coming back beautiful. The thing that happened that was funky with that record was, and this happened on Based on a True Story too, and like I kind of knew it was going to happen because when we made Based on True Stories and made recut the singles with Howard, they sounded great when we were recording them, and then we left, and then he sent us mixes, and they were just like edited to death and like barely resembled the structure that we had laid out in
Okay.
the studio.
Yeah.
So, and like kind of without our consent too. There's like a lot of things were just like just moved around or doubled or cut in half and just like laid out in a way that really confused us. And so it was a uphill battle trying to get it like in a place where we were, you know, at least even comfortable with it being released, which was such a jarring like change from us being like really excited about how it's sounding as we're recording it.
Yeah.
And so when we had been talking with producers about direction, Howard Benson was first in line to want to work with us again. And initially I was like, fuck that. I don't want to work with that guy. It was awful. Like, you know, he made our song sound crazy in the edit and unrecognizable. And I didn't have fun with that. And so we went out for sushi with Howard, and he sat down. He was right away. Like, it was like one of the first things he talked about. He's like, okay. He was like, what happened with the singles? He said, if you do a record with me, that's going to happen again to your singles. Like, I'm going to do that. It's what I do. And I was just like,
yeah.
I don't like that. I don't like that at all. And then he said, but if you do the record with me, I will let you have the rest of the record to do whatever the hell you want. And I thought that that was an interesting compromise. You know, I was at least like, it was at least like the devil you know kind of thing. Whereas like, I do really like the way this guy's records sound, and I was hearing more newer records that he was doing that were impressing me as well. I thought that what he did with like the rejects was great. I think it was a great step up in production for them. And so like I just sort of let go a little bit with my hangups about his editing process, and was just like, okay, like I'm really gonna like run with it and like use everything that's at our disposal, because he had a lot. I mean, that
Right.
studio was just like decked out with every, you know, beautiful sounding toy that you could ever imagine, and you just had the, you know, top of the line engineers and gear, and, you know, brought in Grammy winning percussionists and things of that nature to be able to finish out the record with us. So it was a great process. But then, you know, like he had told me, when the edits from Island and 21 came back to me, I was on the phone like in tears with our label, because I was just like, this is, you can't do this.
Really?
So what happened was we left. I don't even know if I think I've talked about this a little bit, but we left the studio, and I was like, sounds fucking awesome. I was like, I was like, he couldn't do anything to screw it up. Like, no matter what he does with the edits, like there's no way, because like what we did, I love. Like, so even if he shuffles it around, it's gonna be dope. And then for Island and 21, he brought in Kenny Arnoff, which is like a hired gun studio drummer who had never met, still have never met to this day, never exchanged a word with this guy. And he brought him in and recut the drums with just like basically just straightening out every beat that was like, you know, weird or angular, or like snare not on the 2 and 4. It just changed it around so that everything was snare on the 2 and 4. And I was irate about it. I was just livid. I couldn't stand it. I thought that like, in my mind, they turned like our like cool sounding weird beats into just like rap metal beats. And I've loosened up on that opinion like as the years go by, and it just sort of like, I've gained acceptance with how it is on the record. But like, I definitely preferred it at the time the way it was, especially with like my Drive Like Jehu mind, like being like, there needs to be some, you know, some out of the ordinary stuff on here. It can't just all be the like preset kind of drum beats for this record.
Yeah.
And yeah, Benson obviously did not agree. And I think that the part that really bugged me about it was just not being asked at all, like, or like being consulted with at like on any level about this stuff. Like, you know, it's like, it's one thing to like take the things that you recorded and move things from A to B to C to D, but like to get someone else to like record a completely different part in a song that you wrote and then just be like, hey, here's your song. And you have to be like, yeah, tight. Like, I don't know. It really, it didn't sit well with me at the time, but you know, I've learned to embrace it, and I probably love that record the most out of the three, as far as like the test of time goes. But those singles again were a hard pill to swallow, just as promised.
Yeah, man. Totally get
sounds
that.
a bit rough.
Yeah.
Do you kind of look at the numbers now in terms of what direction and based on true story do, and which one kind of does better now?
Like the streaming numbers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean you can't help but take a peek at that stuff every once in a while. But I feel like it's all good. I mean, like what is it? Like Island is like second runner up in like our most streamed. So yeah, I guess
Boost
maybe
numbers, yeah.
maybe Benson was right all along with that beat. And Tom didn't seem to mind, so it's like why is it got to be my fight? It doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. But it would have been nice to meet Kenny off. At least have some sort of feel like I have some sort of connection with what's happening there rhythmically.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I'm as far as numbers go, like I don't put like a whole even with our most successful of streams, I try not to put like too much weight into like what is the most popular. Also, like Bedroom Talk, I guess, is in our front runners of like most streamed, and we all but retired that song, so it doesn't really like sway us too much as far as set list or things of that nature. Yeah,
fair enough. What were you doing when you found out about that Taylor Swift thing? Can you remember that moment? On a scale of 1 to 10, how much did you care about that? Yeah,
it's under 5 for sure.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I was chilling in bed, and like a text came in like on the thread from management with our band that Taylor Swift had dropped our name in a song. I think it was actually one of the guys from State Champs had like tweeted about it. Somehow he heard about it before anybody. So I don't know what I don't know what Reddit thread he's on where he's getting these leaks. But we had heard about it, and then quickly after, a few hours after that news had broke, we had heard the song, and yeah, it's one of these things where I think that I've gone on record to like say I'm. It's not that I'm. Well, I guess we could say I'm not really a fan of Taylor Swift. Like, It's not like I have anything against her. It's just I just don't have a relationship with that music, and it's just more like a figurehead in popularity to me. Another thing with me is like I don't listen to music like because it's popular, and I find that it's like for me a very small Venn diagram of things that are popular and like music that sounds good to me. There aren't a whole lot of things that are like in the middle of that. There are a few things, but like, I'm sorry, Taylor, but that's kind of not really. It's just not one. It's just like, it's not a music that like that really like connects with me. If I'm being honest, and I do like recognize her popularity and like her gravity over the music world, and by all accounts too, she seems like a very like ethical person and like a very like fair person to her employees, and like by all accounts like seems like she's a good person to work with. So like I got to be careful too, like about like I don't want to kick the hornet's nest when I'm talking about Taylor Swift, just because like I don't like fully understand like everything about her fandom. So like to put it simply, like when it broke that was happening, it felt like this event in a long line of like kind of like what the hell, like what the hell is this, like what like it's just, or it's like just like sort of an out of body experience. Is just like, yeah, of course, it's just very surrealist, it's just like it's like just when I think like I could never imagine what is going to happen next with our band, something like that happens, and things have happened like that since then too, that like I don't know if I'll go and like publicly advertise, but like there always seems to be something like that where someone who I would never picture having any sort of association whatsoever with our band will have like make some sort of direct connection to us.
Right.
Yeah, and that was just another in like a series of like those events happening where it was almost like so like bizarre that it's like, yeah, of course that this is what's happening today because it's just weird shit like this keeps happening with our band.
I guess talking about music that you do connect with, then kind of what would you say your kind of, well, let's frame it slightly differently. If you could keep three records in this world, everything else gets wiped out. What three records do you keep?
Oh wow, that's tough because I feel like that answer for me changes every year. Like the records that have like significance and importance on me, it's like I kind of have to think of it in like either one frame of thought or the other. It's either like what was important to me like in my formulative years coming up that I was very influenced by, and what is like very significant and important to me now, which I have
Right.
trouble like.
Why don't you pick one from each? One from each of those kind of
Okay, yeah.
an
If I'm
influential
gonna
album
go,
and in your ears now kind of
yeah,
album.
yeah. If I go with like what was most important to me like in my younger years and like coming into the starting line and everything, it's Face to Face Big Choice. That record, for whatever reason, as I was trying to find like my place in punk rock, and this I'm talking like this was like sixth grade, I think, or like middle school, like I was like 12
Yeah.
years old or so. I
Yeah.
discovered this Face to Face record, and before that, I'd really only been exposed to like Green Day and Rancid and Offspring. Like those were kind of the
Yeah.
triad of punk music that I was aware of, and that was kind of like the selection that I had to choose from. Like I knew that I liked this like fast, like somewhat melodic thing that was happening. And I think at that point I even had a few friends that were exposing me to like more punk stuff like Operation Ivy and hipping me to like Minor Threat and stuff like that. But even those things I couldn't quite connect with because it was like too atonal or amelodic from the things that I was after. And then I heard Disconnected by Big Choice by Face to Face, and it was the Big Choice version, and it just sounded like exactly the music I wanted to listen to. It was like right away I was like, "There's my favorite song." First time I heard it, like down to
Yeah.
like the bass solo in it, and just the four chord structure of it, and like it was catchy, but also like had aggression to it and had like fast velocity and just felt like it felt like skateboarding felt, you know?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So that was big. And then, so these days, to pick one record is tough. Honestly, it's like the record that I've been listening to the last couple years the most is like probably a tie between Everybody Loves Bill Evans and Selected Ambient Works Volume 2 by Aphex Twin,
Okay.
which like are like about as far removed from rock and punk music as you could
It's a
get.
long way from Face to Face.
It's a long way from Face to Face, but that, that is a little bit like of an indicator of like the journey I've been on with music. And
Sure.
then
Yeah.
there's Jehu in the middle, which is like also like I'd have a lot of trouble getting rid of that record, but I find myself listening a lot more to Bill Evans and Aphex these days. And I think that might be in part to being like a dad too. And also
Yeah.
like going through like grief of losing people too. I find that those records are unbelievable medicinal sonic aids for you to be able to like process grief and just like it's the closest I think that you can like get to meditation in music without just listening to like completely, like spa sounding music or something.
Yeah.
Like, first of all, Bill Evans, like the fact that he was already on this journey from like the 50s and 60s to making this music that is like, it sometimes sounds like borderline classical music, like almost like a Satie composition. It's like it's not even quite jazz to me. Like Bill Evans' music is like its own thing, and I connect so deeply with it. I find like especially with the baby, if we're just alone, I'm just like having some, playtime with her, like changing a diaper, like just like putting on some nice soft Bill Evans music. It just like relaxes the both of us and just like creates a wonderful environment to live in. And I feel like there's an equivalent to that with Selected Ambient Works Volume 2 by Aphex Twin, because it just like gives me that similar sort of journey and experience of listening to Bill Evans, but it's just it's in a futuristic like other planet, it just
Okay.
it's not even
Yeah.
in the world that we live in. And I also love the thought and intention behind that record, because I feel like there's been countless records that have been made to try to achieve what he did on Selected Ambient Works Volume 2. And for some reason, there's an innocence and a playfulness and a restraint on that record where he can really just like let a loop go for 11 minutes and like very slight differentiations will come in and out, but it's just so subtle that it's really unlike any other listening experience I have from any other record, which I think is what it excites me so much these days.
Yeah.
In 2 years, who knows where I'll be at, but like
Yeah.
those are kind of like the two places that my brain goes to, like having a desire to listen to music. Like if it's my choice, I find myself gravitating to those.
Nice. It's funny. Here every time I hear Face to Face now, Nick, it makes me think of the Jawbreaker moment. So Kenny, when we were at Four Chord last year, we were interviewing Jawbreaker.
Yeah.
Face to Face, take the stage, but like the sound's so intrusive, and then Blake, the singer from Jawbreaker, is just like, someone tell that fucking band to shut the fuck up, and it's
Oh,
just
damn.
very stern. And Nick's just sort of awkwardly says, "Oh, you must have played with Face to Face a whole bunch over the years," and they were like, "Nope, don't know who they are, don't care." And
Damn. Wow.
they were Jawbreaker were characters. I liked them though. They were they
Yeah.
were an interesting.
I saw the
interview.
documentary. Blake seems like a hard pill to swallow sometimes. Damn, though, face to face catching a stray from Jawbreaker. That's what a shame.
Kim, I'm conscious we've been going an hour now, so I think we can probably wrap this up.
Oh wow, it's been fun.
Yeah, no, it's been really cool. Really appreciate it. Nick, I'm wondering before we let Ken go, should we try the Drive Thru Records last record standing? We
Sure.
did that. Who did we do?
Yeah.
Oh, we did it with Ace Enders, didn't we, last year? So yeah. So Ken, if you're up for it, we were thinking we'll throw two Drive Thru albums from their catalog at you. You pick which one you prefer, and then it will kind of be like a winner stays on thing, and we'll see where it leads.
Easy.
Let's do it. Right, I'll lead us off, and then Nick, have you got the list in front of you as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right, so the first two we have is Midtown's "Save the World, Lose the Girl" up against Alistair's "Dead Ends and Girlfriends."
That's the one with like the thing in the sky, whatever that thing.
it is.
Thing.
Yeah. I'll go
That
Midtown.
one.
I'll go Midtown. It's close.
Okay, Save the World, Lose the Girl by Midtown, or Newfound Glory, Nothing Gold Can Stay.
Newfound.
Newfound Glory, Nothing Gold Can Stay up against Early November's "Room's Too Cold."
Room's Too Cold.
Room's Too Cold, or Homegrown, Kings of Pop.
Ooh, damn.
That's a fun album.
Yeah, that is a fun one. I'd say, wow, that was that's really close. I'll go Room's Too Cold.
"Room's Too Cold" up against Steel Train's "Twilight Tales from the Prairies of the Sun."
Room's Too Cold.
Room's Too Cold, or Houston Cole's End of an Era. End of an Era? Is it?
It's End of an Era. Yeah.
Sorry, who's that?
Houston Cole's.
Oh yeah. Room's Too Cold for sure. Is that we're still on Room's Too Cold, right?
Yeah, we are.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe you'll take it to the end. We've only got a couple more here. Oh, "Room's Too Cold" up against Finch, "What It Is to Burn."
That's a great album.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. This is actually tougher than I thought it would be. I'll give it Room's Too Cold. Room's Too Cold was really like impressive. Like I feel like very few bands had like such a high jump up in quality from like their previous stuff to Room's Too Cold.
Okay, Room's Too Cold or Phoenix TX, self-titled.
Oh, yeah, Phoenix TX. Hell yeah.
No. Nice. So the River Phoenix or Phoenix TX, whatever you want to call it, up against RX Bandit's Progress.
RX Bandit's Progress. Slam dunk.
Okay, two more left. RX Bandit's Progress or something called Leaving Through the Window.
Progress.
And finally, Progress against Newfound Glory's Catalyst.
Progress.
RX Bandits Take It. That is a really good record. I've been listening to randomly, I think it's track 5 off that, Get. I love the chorus on that. Always loved Analog Boy, but Get is such a good song as well. Such a good record.
Progress, Resignation, and Battle Begun is like it's just the flyest hat trick in Drive Thru history. Like that band, I mean, they were just like could not miss in that era.
Yeah, and I think it's as you said, they were like one of your first tours, so I think it's like appropriate that we end on them.
For sure, too. And just to speak on the band as too, like they were the most impressive of all the Drive Thru bands too, because when we first signed, I had not really like given them much attention. I just sort of like foolishly wrote them off as like the ska band of the label, which I would, had kind of like moved past ska at that point as far as like what I was listening to on a regular basis. And it took like them putting out Progress and us like leaving for tour with them a couple weeks later for me to really realize how like the brilliance of that band and how they were just like on a journey that was like leaps and bounds ahead of so many other bands that were our contemporaries. And I think that seeing that gave me great inspiration to like push myself a lot further creatively and artistically. And I don't know if I would have had that same initiative if I hadn't been exposed to them so closely in those early years. So I always credit that band to really being an amazing motivator for us.
Nice. I think on that note, we can leave it there. Ken, thanks so much for doing this, man. This has been a lot of fun. Really appreciate your time.
Of course. I've apologized for my blabbering. I feel like you asked like 3 questions and I just...
No, that's what we want.
Cool. Well, thank you guys. It's just as delightful as I thought it would be.
Nice.
Awesome. Enjoy
Enjoy your downtime with the little one, and hope summer and fall goes well for you guys.